Outer Circle, and today I'm doing something I promised some people I would do a little while back, which is we're going to take another look at the 40k Chaos Space Marines Codex, and I'm going to try not to rant. Basically, I want to explain a few of the gripes that Chaos players tend to have about this thing, in a little detail to people who are maybe not familiar with the problems. Because I often notice online, especially on forums, Facebook, things like that, that people seem to think the state of things is okay with the Codex, that for whatever reason, Chaos players just want everything Marines have plus more. That's not true, and I just want to establish it as a fact here today that Chaos players are pissed off because since 3rd edition there's been no evolution inside the books. Now, people listening to this are probably thinking, Macca, you're fucking insane. And yes, that's true, I probably am insane, but when I say there's been no evolution, it's because I'm holding in my hands books from the 90s. I'm holding the 3rd edition core rulebook in my hand right now. You see, in the days of 3rd edition, you actually got your army lists printed inside the main rulebook. Now, they weren't perfect army lists. They were a rough stepping off point for all the armies that were involved in the game at the time. The main armies, so, your Eldar, Orcs, Marines, Chaos. There was no Tau, there was no Necrons, any of that kind of thing. Now, when I look at this, the Chaos and the Marines are practically identical. The only special rules that Marines had was, and they shall know no fear. And that Marines in Terminator armor can move and fire with heavy weapons. Now, if I flip over to the section involving the Chaos Space Marines, the only rule they're lacking that the Marines have is, and they shall know no fear. Otherwise, they're identical. Now, throughout this book, I can compare unit to unit, stat to stat, and apart from the land speeders, the attack bike squadrons, and the scout squads, the whirlwinds, and the vindicators, Marines and Chaos are identical. Chaos, however, has units the Marines don't. Chaos has the greater demons, of course, the demon prince, and the lesser demons. There's also specialist units such as the Khorne Berserkers, the Thousand Sons, the Plague Marines. However, back in this time they were less specialised and their stats were mostly just stock Marine stats with a minor buff. The Marines from Thousand Sons, for example, had an extra wound. There was nothing fancy about them at all. Now, at some point along the way, Marines and Chaos both got 4th edition codexes, and inside the 4th edition codex, for Chaos it was actually the 3.5 codex, the war gear and the special rules allowed absolutely skyrocketed. You see, a bunch of what they called universal special rules at the time were introduced. These were Tank Hunter, Furious Charge, etc., etc. Now, these were special rules that could be obtained for paying points, points premiums, and these codexes were great. They allowed you to really customize your army. Every army was unique, it was individual. The Marine armies at the time, for example, you got to pick basically 3 special rules. There was a big list of special rules. Now, certain chapters had set rules. But if you're making your own chapter, you could pick, say, bikes as troops, apothecaries as sergeants, and something else. So I had a Marine army at the time, which I bought from a guy, and they were the Black Paladins. It was an all-space Marine bike army, and all the squad sergeants were apothecaries, which, as you could imagine, was a rather brutal affair. keeping in mind this is the exact same time frame that the Chaos Space Marines had the 3.5 decks, the one that everyone complains about as too cheesy and too overpowered. But apparently, a whole army of toughness 5 bikes with apothecaries in every squad wasn't. So, whatever. Anyway, along came late 4th edition, early 5th edition, and we had a new Chaos Space Marine Codex got released, a very infamous one. It was written by Gav Thorpe, and to be fair to the guy, it's not his fault that it's shit. That's on Games Workshop, because their mindset was, we want to simplify the game. Now, this mindset was something they only had in their mind for about 2 weeks. If they're on an alcohol-fueled binge or, snorting cocaine off a hooker's ass, these things happen. But what happened was Chaos Space Marines got watered right down. They went from an amazing Legion book with lots of variety, where everything could be represented as per the fluff, to a very bland book where you're essentially forced, you are sort of strong-armed into playing Chaos Renegades. So specifically Red Corsairs and Black Legion type armies, which you can imagine what that did to the Chaos players. So if you want to know where the bitterness started, it was there. Because if, say you're a loyalist Space Marine player, for example, someone comes along to you and they say, Space Marines are cool and all, but we're going to take away your Blood Angels. We're going to take away your Space Wolves, we're going to take away your Dark Angels, and from now on you will all play not even Ultramarines, you'll play something less interesting than Ultramarines. You'd kind of feel a bit, annoyed, a bit slighted, if you will. And that's how Chaos players felt. All the war gear was gone, all the cool stuff was gone. And then we look over at Marines. And when Marines got their 5th edition book, they got given 2 new rules. These were Chapter Tactics and Combat Tactics. Chaos also lost their demons, with only a small amount of lesser demons left in their book, because demons got gutted to make their own codex, which to me is still a lacking codex. The 2 armies really do belong together, Chaos Space Marines and Chaos Demons, because neither formation has really been fleshed out enough to stand on its own legs. Because at this point in time, the only extra unit Chaos had over Marines was the Defiler. Marines were getting new variants of Land Speeders. They were up to 3 different Codex, not Forge World, but Codex variants of the Land Raider. They were getting a lot more equipment and war gear. Their characters were becoming stronger, tougher, better than they'd ever been. Chaos at this time, however, was sort of languishing. And this is where the creep out really starts to hurt, because again, back in those 3rd edition days, you could have a Chaos Space Marine and a Marine on the board and they'd be on an equal footing. The Marine couldn't be run down in close combat, the Chaos guy could, but it'd be a pretty even fight. All of a sudden though, with the advent of 5th and especially amplified in 6th, Marines were getting all these new special rules. They had versatility that Chaos didn't. The ability to say, alright, I'm playing an objective game, I'm going to split all my 10-man squads into 2 5-man squads, is something that can't be underestimated. And Nation No Fear is still a strong rule. And then you've got your chapter tactics. And the thing with chapter tactics is you're getting free special rules. They're turning around to you and saying, not only have you got your rules now, but here's some extra stuff. So they turned around and they gave the Space Marines, let's say, +1 attack or rage or something. Not something over the top. I think there's Furious Charge on Raven Guard jump pack troops, for example. All Raven Guard units get a 6+ cover save or shrouded in the first turn of the game. Rules like that. It's not much, but it was something that Chaos didn't have. So if you're comparing the same units in these codexes to one another, there's no comparison on that basic level. And when Chaos players sound like they're bitching and whinging and they're saying we want our Legion tactics, they're not saying they don't want compromise. They're not saying I want special rules. I want a Chaos version of chapter tactics. No, in my mind, for me personally, what we're asking for is, We want rules that can represent our legions. Something that we had once, that all the players want, but the Games Workshop said no to. Games Workshop has told us how to play our army. And that's what people are upset about. Because it's their hobby. It's what they enjoy. And Games Workshop's taken that away from them, they feel. People turn around, they say, oh, if you're a Night Lords player, you know, for example, you can still represent your army. Just take lots of raptors and things like that. Well, how would you feel as, you know, a Dark Angel's army? You had to just take an Ultramarines army and someone just told you, that's alright, just take plasma guns in all your squads. It'll be fluffy. The only thing differentiating, you know, most of the Chaos armies is the paint scheme. And that upsets people. They want their armies to feel unique. They're an expression of them and their hobby. They want them to, you know, talk about that person. That's why it hurts Chaos players. And that's why Chaos players are such whiny little bitches on forums. Because, literally, for 15 years, this sort of shit's been happening to them. The carrot was dangled in front of their eyes in 3rd edition. They had parity with all the other races. And then their identity got taken from them, their individuality. Now everyone is generic Space Marine Legion. Sure, you can add marks, you can add banners, you can add all the stuff in the world, but you're paying for it. All things that Marines can get for free, you're paying a premium for. That breeds resentment, it breeds unbalance, it's just poor game design. Somewhere there's a fanboy right now disagreeing with me. I don't care. Disagree till you're blue in the face, mate. You're wrong. It's shit game design. Games Workshop's run by people. People are fallible. You know, again, as I sit here flicking through a book that's 20 years old, you know, or 18 years old, some of the models in this are still in the current Chaos range. I can't see any models in the Marines section which are still in the Marine range. Every single kit's been updated. Every single one. Terminators, Scouts, the Land Speeder, TAC Marines, Devastators, the works. The only things that haven't been updated are your characters. So, for example, Azrael, in this 18-year-old book, still the same Azrael. Marneus Calgar in Power Armor, still the same Marneus Calgar in Power Armor. But when I flick over to the Chaos Space Marine section, I go, ooh, well, that's not good. That greater demon's the same. That greater demon's the same. That greater demon's the same. Oh, that all those bikers, they're the same. Oh, our special characters, yep, they're all the same. So you've created another disparity. Every time someone turns around, they say, you know, just invest more money into Chaos. Show Games Workshop that you care, and they will, you know, go where the money is. They will spend the money on the army. I don't see it that way. Every time someone says it, I have to rebuttal them. I have to rebuke them, and I've got to say, Games Workshop has followed the money. What they did was they went, you know, Marines are selling well. Let's give them lots of kits to keep up sales, and give them good rules and constant rules updates. And it's had a flow-on effect where, because of that, people have been drawn to it. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because Marines get constant updates and new kits, they sell well. And because they sell well, they get constant new updates and new kits. Chaos is the opposite. They're probably not selling well. They did once upon a time. But the only new kits we sort of had in the last few years are these horrible, overdressed units covered in brass trim and things like that. Kat and I spent a fair bit of time in our first weekly Scrub Down episode talking about the look of Chaos and what we don't like about it. One of the key things that people keep saying to me is, oh, you know, traders hate. Chaos is getting formations and supplements, and guys, an army needs to be able to stand on its own two legs. I can go to Forge World and I can play a Spartan and use Imperial Armor 13 and combine it with the Chaos Codex and take, you know, special character X, you know, Ranger Y and blah blah blah, combine them together and come out with an army that works. Marines don't have to do that. Eldar don't have to do that. Tau don't have to do. They can take their basic core codex and make a fully functioning, solid army. Chaos can't do that because Chaos models, their rules have not advanced from 3rd edition. That is how much the 4th/5th edition codex nerfed them. It neutered them. This army book that we've got now, this codex, it plays the same as a 3rd edition army. And it's a completely different world out there. When you're going along and you're looking at some of these units, these horrible sculpts and things like that, and people say the formation adds all these special rules to your current codex. Yes, but the codex itself is flawed. You know, it's the codex. I can't believe this thing's sold out, but because the codex is flawed, you're polishing turds. You're not fixing the problems. You need to go in at the core level, and rather than Games Workshop focusing all their efforts on limited edition book releases and formations and data slates, and they need to just go in, get the core codex and fix it. They need to look at what is working, what isn't working. They need to say, okay, look, we understand that Chaos Space Marines have, up to 7, in some cases, less rules than their loyalist counterparts. We clearly can't charge a single point less. We need to go more than that. We need to... If you do the math correctly, Chaos Space Marines should be 10 points. I've had people go, that's outrageous. That's the cost of an Eldar Guardian. I'll say, yeah. Well, an Eldar Guardian has fucking almost the same stat line as a Space Marine. Obviously, the initiatives... the toughness is lower, the strength is lower, the leadership is lower. But they've got fleet of foot. They can run and they can still shoot at full ballistic skill after running, which adds great versatility. And their weapons also have pseudo-rending. So, I don't see the problem here. What's wrong with charging 10 points for a Chaos Space Marine? Units like the Hellbrute have rules that just make no sense. The Crazed rule is more hindrance and more harm than it's good. You don't want to take a unit that's unreliable. Randomness is an aspect that has been pushed in this codex. You can't have characters, big ones, 250 point characters like Araman, Land Raider priced characters, getting fucked around by rules like you must challenge, and once you've challenged it, if you win it, then you have to roll on a boon table, because you're literally rolling the dice on a character, and it could go puff the magic dragon, you turn to a fucking spawn. How would a Marine player feel if every time he took Marnius Calgar into a fight, he had to roll 2d6, and if he rolled the wrong number, Calgar turned into something, shit. I imagine he'd be pretty fucking bummed out about it. This army, it needs delivery options, it needs vehicles. Above all, it needs vehicles. There needs to be new tanks, things like open-top transports, bigger versions of rhinos. They need predators, land raiders, things like that with weapons on them that are Chaos specific. There's no reason why Chaos can't have the Marine land raiders. People like to say, oh, but Marines and Chaos are different. They're allowed to have different units because you don't want Chaos looking like Marines. But then Marines go and steal all the fucking good ideas Chaos have. They took Obliterators, they morphed them into Centurions. They took Mutilators, they morphed them into the different type of Centurions. Chaos got an awesome Dreadnought in 3.5. Marines took it and they made a Venerable. And then they made an Ironclad. Chaos is still sitting here with our fucking, as they now call them, Hellbrute for maximum copyright. Chaos tried to take a few ideas back that we once had as options back in the 3.5 days, like the Chaos Space Marine Warpsmith or the Dark Apostle. They were options we had before that we lost in 4th and 5th edition. We can't even give our fucking Chaos Lords a 2+ armor save anymore. We need to buy them Terminator armor if we want to do it. Marines, you start with a character with Artificer armor, and an Iron Halo. That's your starting character. You know, you guys don't know how lucky you are. Games Workshop has kissed you on the dick, and they've been doing it for decades. Chaos players are moaning and pissing because they've been fucked around. It's not a short-term fuck around. It's a long-term one. It's like Dark Eldar. I remember when Dark Eldar got their fucking codex in 3rd edition, and it took them, 10, 12 years to get an update? That's terrible. You know? The people out there saying, don't worry about it, there's no problem, are two types of people. The first is the people who are unaffected. The second is the people who don't know better, the ignorant. The ignorant are often people who are coming into the game. I've noticed them. I've say on forums, you know, most Chaos players want legions. There's always that one guy who says, I'm a new Chaos player, and I think Crimson Slaughter are cool. Okay, great for you, buddy. That's you. That's your anecdotal evidence. But when I go to a tournament, I don't see fucking 16 tables of Red Corsairs or, you know, Crimson Slaughter or Black Legion. You know, when I was seeing Chaos at tournaments, you know, they're practically all gone now. They were God-themed. Massive armies of Noise Marines, of Khorne Berserkers, of Thousand Suns, you know, Night Lords. People loved their Alpha Legion. These players were so embittered and so frustrated that they couldn't play their armies. They went over to Horus Heresy. That's part of why Horus Heresy is booming. It's not just because it's a tighter rule set, but it actually turned around and said to all those unappreciated Chaos players, here's a bone for you. Here, have something. So yeah, next time someone says, I don't see what the problem is, you know, Chaos is fine. Everything that Marines have, Chaos have, I don't see what the problem is. You guys are just complaining for nothing. Point them to this video. Every time someone says, it's okay, you can use Forge World to make your army work, point them to this video. Every time they say, you can take a formation, you can take a detachment, point them to this video. And then tell them, I want you to go, take the Chaos Space Marine army. I want you to play Chaos how it's meant to be. Chaos Lord, lots of Chaos Space Marines. I want you to go and play in a tournament with it. Not even a tournament, just a friendly. And I want you to go up against a Space Marine army. You know, the way it's supposed to be. A couple of tactical squads, character. And I want you to see how you go. I think you'll find that straight out of the gate, you're going to lose 9 times out of 10. Obviously, there's a bit of chance in it, a few dice rolls. You know, there's always going to be that chance element when you are playing with dice. Let's face it. Sometimes you might be a really good general, which we all like to think we are, hey? Little bunch of Napoleons, aren't we? But, you know, the Marine player, he's got all those extra special rules. They're going to come in handy for him. What have you got? You got your stat line. I'm Macca. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to see you next time.